Welcome to the BizLaunch seminar on starting up right. Everything you needed and wanted to know about starting a business. Really, it's my pleasure to have you here this morning. We're really looking forward to kicking off a fall series of webinars and seminars and events with you all, and just glad that you're able to spend the day with us. Before we get started, I want to talk a little bit about the logistics for today's webinar. One thing I want to say from the beginning is feel free to eat your lunch. We don't mind because we won't hear you chewing. Have snacks and have fun. If you have any questions, feel free to type them in the chat box. Right now you're in listen-only mode until the end of the session during the Q&A. If you have a question during the webinar that you want to make sure is answered, please do type your question into the chat window. We will be moderated with today's session by Arlington's very own Masa Javed. Masa, thank you so much for being here with us this morning. We will be
glad to be here.
Yeah, glad to have you here. This is Masa's first webinar with us here in BizLaunch, so we're very, very glad to have her as part of our presentation. We will, if you're not able to listen to the entire presentation or would like a copy of it, we'll have it available up on our website under resources, either by the end of this week or early next week. If you have additional questions, feel free to reach out to us at our number, 703-228-0808, or feel free to email me directly. This is a subject that is near and dear to my heart. That is what I look like, everyone. I am just not a disembodied voice, but I am Tara Palacios, the director of Arlington's Small Business Program. We've been doing, or have BizLaunch has been in existence since 2002. I've had the honor and pleasure of working with 33 other thousand entrepreneurs that come through our doors. We've seen a lot of trends, what's worked, what's not worked, what's hot, what fizzles out, really looking at best practices for business. Besides that, I was in the private sector before then, and my specialty is marketing and PR. I did a lot of that in the private sector, a lot of events marketing, and that's my real pleasure, and I work and do training with those topics as well. So that's just a little bit about me. It's my pleasure to have you here on the webinar today. You can also follow us on Twitter at any time. I'll be trying to live tweet. It might be a bit hard. But any topics or any questions or any thoughts about entrepreneurship, feel free. It'll enhance the experience that we have for today. So jumping right into the presentation. Ba-dow. Starting up right. This is what it looks like. You know it when you see it. It's well planned. It's well thought out. You know your target market. You understand the things that are pleasing to them. The price point is excellent. You may have a line at your lemonade stand. But this just doesn't happen. The elements that you see here in this photo in particular, you know, entrepreneurship is a process. So you want to be an entrepreneur, and you know there's a lot of pitfalls, there are a lot of challenges, and you really want to make sure that you start off right. So you can take a flying leap, you know, and catch what may and see what happens. Or you can start off by really doing some background research, understanding your vision, really thinking about it and being inspired and feel passion towards an idea that you have. Brainstorming, designing, you know, there's a bit of that. So as you take that leap, you're calm because you've done the homework, you've minimized the risk, you know your target audience, and you're able to execute. And when I think of starting up right, the difference between the startup entrepreneurs that do well, that I've seen over the last 14 or so years, are the ones that really put in their homework, really understand, they minimize risk as much as possible. Their return on investment is done just so because they're really able to understand what the market is bearing. And we're going to get into a lot of that, also resources that are available. yes, you are at the right webinar. Not only do we do webinars, we do counseling in both English and Spanish. There are tons of resources, marketing intelligence. We do small business awards, networking opportunities. BizLaunch is a lot, and we try to offer as much as possible to our entrepreneurs. The other piece I can say is it's free, which is great, so you don't have to pay for most of the services that we offer here at BizLaunch. But this is just a touch of some of the things we do. We wouldn't be able to do a lot of our programming without our partners. We are a portion or a department or division within Arlington County and Arlington Economic Development, but we work really closely with our friends on the federal side, the Small Business Administration, Commerce Department. We work with a lot of nonprofits who's tasked in working and making sure that entrepreneurs start off right. And so that's my goal, is to try to know as much information to help you be successful in your endeavors. Which leads us to today's agenda. We're going to talk a lot or a bit on business planning. We'll definitely go over all the regulations that you need to know on both the federal, state, and local level, and exactly what those next steps will be. One of the things I'll tell folks is if you see that note symbol at the very bottom, that means that this slide is very important. Take a note. Keep this in mind. Not that all the slides aren't important, but really make sure that as you begin your entrepreneurial journey, you really take a significant look at what's going on. Which leads me to free is a very good four-letter word. And notice the note symbol on the right-hand side. Keep calm because it's free. There are a lot of things that are free as you start your journey that you don't have to pay for. And we'll get into some of that because really, as an entrepreneur, you want to be able to invest as much capital into the endeavor that you're doing. You want to make sure that you're investing in the business and maybe not paying for as many things. There's some things that you want to pay for and you want to pay well for. Things that come to mind, attorney, accountant, CPA, you know, these people will save you money in the long run, and if you have them on as part of your team, it's a very good thing. But there are a lot of resources as you begin your journey to start up that are available to you. Keep that in mind. This is a quick, short, and dirty checklist. I consider it our golden business checklist. Everybody wants to know, okay, what do I need to do in order to get started? Very first thing is plan. Next thing is decide how much money do you need. Then you go into what type of structure do I have? What are the requirements that I am responsible for as an entrepreneur? Are there any certifications that I need in order to do my business and to get more business? And then execute. Launch, take that flying leap, but it's a calculated leap because you've gone through this checklist. So we'll start with the very first bullet, planning, 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 and more planning. At some point, you have to take that leap, but with anything, and I look at all types of very successful business people, and the real difference is making sure that you have a plan. It's always good to have a plan in the beginning, because when you do, you're really good to go. You're minimizing that risk. You're understanding that market inside and out. You're taking a judgment that you have about the market, you're fleshing it out, and you're putting what I call meat to the potatoes. There's also, in the business plan, you'll get market research. That's up-to-date live information about your industry sector. You'll also get or acquire business intelligence. This is who your competition is, what they look like, what pricing points do they have, how can you compete. Business intelligence is extremely important. Sometimes you pay for it, other times you can get this or access this information for free. This allows you not to fly blind. Then there's also social media and the marketing aspect of your business, and then there's the financials that you need to do in order to be able to launch successfully. One of the things that I always tell people is definitely think about all 5 of these bullets. Have in mind, have it written down, even if it's a one-page paper, you know, where you thought this through and you understand these aspects, you're ahead of the game. Now, what does a business plan look like? Business plan is feasible. It's not just an idea that you've cooked up that can't be executed. Business plan is vetted, and it just makes sense. It's extremely detailed. It'll talk about timing. It'll talk about the types of people that you hire, your business hours, what type of location, whether it's a co-working space, whether it's a commercial space, retail space, what the landlord has provided for you to sign, what the competition looks like. A lot of times when people say, I have no competition, that to me is a red flag. You need to have competition. You need to have folks that are in the industry sector and doing well. That means that there's a market. If people are not in your industry, then you have to develop an industry sector, and then you have to throw a lot of money in it, in advertising and R&D and development. It's much easier to be in an existing market than to create a market. So you want your competition there. You want them to be healthy. You want to be able to gain an aspect of that market. Many times, a very thorough business plan will be about 20 or more pages. It takes an assumption of the market and it minimizes the risk to execute. Okay? So it goes beyond that idea phase. I have a great idea, let me go run and let me launch this. No, it's well thought out. And it really is written for you, the entrepreneur. Do I take this calculated risk? Think Shark Tank. If any of you all have watched the show Shark Tank, they're evaluating the feasibility and all aspects of the business as to would they be willing to invest. Now, in that instance, it's a little different because they want to take part of your business, and I don't know if you want that or not. But you have to kind of think the way they think. You have to think very shrewdly. This is my idea. I love it. I have passion. But does it make sense? And this is where the business plan will help you. It will also be written. The landlord will want to see a copy of your plan. Bankers, anyone that's investing will also want to see it. It also needs to have, and you need to provide management expertise of the business. So if you've never been in the IT industry, but you want to create or develop an app, you sure better have a strong employee, strong people, advisors that are kind of helping you along the way. Or you actually take courses and you work for someone else. You want to gain that expertise so that you understand the ins and outs of that industry that you're going into. As a startup, you would consider a new business, usually for the first 5 years. So if you're doing any type of financing of an endeavor, a banker will want to see at least 3 years past tax returns, because you as the individual are actually the one that will be co-signing and supporting the business. The idea is, as time goes by, the business is able to get credit on its own. But initially, as the entrepreneur, you're going to be backing this business. And don't forget, some folks forget this piece, but that final bullet is your marketing plan. It'll be great if you have all the aspects, but no way for people to know who you are, what you are, where you are. And so a very detailed marketing plan also must be included in that as well. Now, one thing I can do a shameless ad, we are doing a business plan webinar in October, so definitely be on the lookout for that, because that will be your next step. Now, insofar as market research and business intelligence, I've got to say in Arlington, and if you're in the surrounding jurisdictions, you can access Arlington's premium websites. These are sites where if you were going to get some market research information or any type of business intelligence, you would pay between $2,000 and $10,000 to get this information. Arlington provides it for free. We also have a business librarian who can meet with you to help you access that data. Demographics, psychographics, if you're looking at a key area within the United States, it'll tell you how those people purchase and buy, who your competition is. Very, very detailed market research information that you can get. That's 2015. That's current day. It's not outdated. It's current information. And we will actually be doing in November a market research webinar to help you gain and be able to access information and create databases. We also run co-star reports, and those are, if you're tied with real estate, we can do a certain block within 1/10 of a mile, what those people look like, what the foot traffic is, what those folks are buying, goods and services. We can really provide some really detailed information for you, as well as George Mason School of Public Policy offers, usually it's about between $800 and $800 to $1,000 for industry information. If you come here, they will actually provide it for you for free. And then we have a ton of networking opportunities. Most of those are free. You come with your business plan, you market yourself to other businesses, B2B, B2G, business to government. We have government folks that come out. So we're having one this September 15th, so hopefully you'll be able to join us for that. Which leads me into, you get this information, and the question that we get are, how do I market myself? Your business, it looks like an apple, it's got the shape, it's got the stem, it looks delicious, but how do you stand out from everybody else? How do you make yourself unique? And that's also really understanding how a company or how an individual or consumer receives their information. And so there are a variety of marketing tools that are out there, whether it's social media. A lot of businesses nowadays use LinkedIn. They'll have a business LinkedIn page or their professional LinkedIn page where they share information. It's awesome. There's Twitter. We use a lot with Twitter to send out information that we find out about. Federal government as well as state government, very active on social media. So if there are opportunities that are coming up. Facebook, also advertising with the social media mediums is pretty affordable. I've done it myself. There's traditional advertising, whether you're in print media or radio. If this is where your consumers or other businesses receive information, what you want to know is when you're working with a radio station or print media, you want to know what their circulation is, how many people are reading it, when they read it. Get as much information as possible so when you pay into any type of marketing tool, you know exactly what your return on investment is. So say your budget is $1,000, and with that $1,000, you're going to hit 20,000 people. Of those 20,000 people, you can convert 10 people into solid sales. So that's where, I used this term earlier, but you're putting meat to the potatoes. You're really looking at it and systematizing, and you're seeing what it's just marketing. It's not just marketing for marketing's sake, but it's really making sure that you're turning opportunities into direct sales. You can also do surveys. I think the easiest way to find out information about your clientele is to survey them. Get it straight from the horse's mouth. Find out what they like, what they don't like. Survey them, send them information, constantly keep in touch. And as also getting the market research data. There's paid versus free, but in everything as you're starting up, you're getting these numbers now and you're plugging it into your business plan so you'll know exactly what things will cost you. Do you join a chamber? How many networking events do you go to? If you go to a networking event, are you getting business from that networking event, or are you just meeting pleasant people? But being very, very, strategic is the word that I'm looking for with regards to how you do your marketing and you plan accordingly. Now, there are some websites that you can go to as you begin to start up. One that I recommend, of course, is ours, which is at the top of the list. We do have a startup checklist. We blog about our businesses. We blog about topics. If you'd like to be featured, let us know. We'd love to share information about our businesses. Also, the SBA has wonderful tutorials. If you go on their website, they can help you with your plan. You just type in the information. You can save the information. SCORE, we have SCORE here in economic development. They're available Monday through Thursday for free. I consider them like business mentors, people that will work with you while you're in idea phase to actually launching your business. They also have blog posts, they have podcasts, they have a wealth of information. Don't forget about the IRS. They do tax regulation, but they also have a ton of resources for businesses that you can tap into. There's sample business plans at Toolkit. Arlington has its own small business portal. I alluded to, as we were talking through the marketing research, you can make an appointment with the librarian to sit down and understand how to access the information on the databases. You can also, in that first link, go to the websites that the county offers. There's also, if you're interested in government contracting or doing business with the government, whether it's federal, state, or local, Virginia Procurement Technical Assistance Program, that last bullet, will actually help you to respond to bids for free. And they also have a wealth of information. Anna Ehrman oversees that division, and they do amazing work. So I definitely recommend them as well. But these are all resources to help support you as you do that bullet, plan, 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 and plan some more. Now, just so you see, this is an image of our website. The checklist and legal requirements is on the right-hand side. You see all of our upcoming events on the right. Our blog features, a lot of our businesses that we featured on this blog have gotten business. My colleague in arms, my compatriot Lourdes Morales, and myself work on that. But if you want to set up an appointment with a SCORE counselor, that's all on the left-hand side. The checklist, everything is like laid out very simply right here. Okay, now moving on to the money tree. I really like this image because I want to grab up it and just grab as much money as I need without having to pay interest or pay anything back. I just want the money. But the biggest question that I get from folks is, do I finance my endeavors or do I not finance? And as you can see, as we go to this very white and big old yes, and you see there's the note there. Yes, please do finance. You go after money when you don't need it. Sometimes people, whether it's an investor or a banker, they know when you're desperate, and they know when you actually need the money, and they're kind of like, oh, they're too desperate, we're not going to lend to them. So what you want to do, as you know, as you're starting up and you're establishing your business, you really do want to separate yourself from the business and start to build credit in the business. Even if it's a line of credit that you have, just cash on hand. I need to hire a couple employees. It's coming up sudden. I don't have the contract in hand yet. Let me dip into this line of credit, pay for some of those fees, pay it back. You're establishing a credit in the business. So when you need to go after a larger amount, you can, and you can do it on the merits because you've been building the credit of your enterprise. There are different types of financing options. There's traditional financing where you go to the bank or financial institution. You know how much you need. I need $50,000 in seed money. I am purchasing a food truck, and that's how much it's going to cost me. And you go to the bank and they lend you $50,000. There's SBA lending, Small Business Administration lending. The SBA, which is a branch of the federal government, does not lend directly. What they do is they've amassed a group of financial institutions, i.e. banks, who will lend directly to you using federal government programs. A lot of them are housed under what we call the 7A, and a lot of them are dependent on what you need to use the proceeds for, or how much you need and how quickly you need it. So there's quite a number. Many times what I'll tell people is when you're meeting with the bank, you want to meet with the bank before you need the money. You want them to understand your industry sector and what it is that you're doing. So when you go to them with your strategic plan that says, I need $50,000 for a food truck, they know who you are, what your goals are, they understand your business processes, and they may decide to go traditional, and they may decide to go SBA. Now what we see most of the time, and in 2015 there's a lot of friends and family and a lot of credit cards. that do the financing endeavors. One of the things I say is do not start a business if you don't have enough capital. If you think about it, Apple just released their next iPad and iPhone. Apple doesn't have enough money to do what they want to do. So make sure that you have enough money with what you need to do because you don't have Apple pockets, okay? So if the endeavor calls for 50 grand and you're only able to amass 25, that's a note this. Rework it or save up until you have the amount that you need so that if anything happens, you're still able to proceed forward and it's not like you're losing any of your investment because you are investing in your business. There's also crowdfunding, Kickstarter, Indiegogo, Kiva Zip. That is really dependent on the industry sector that you're in and what the terms are. You really have to understand some of them will take a certain percentage, and so you need to make sure that you subtract that off of the top with whatever that you're asking. Some of the organizations, some of the crowdfunders will want you to be able to pay it all back, and that they want to get you fully funded before they release the funds. So really look at the fine print. With venture capital, it really is working with somebody that's interested in investing in your technology, in your business, in your restaurant, in whatever endeavor it is that you're doing. Note that you will need to give away a portion of your business in order to an investor to invest in you. Not all entrepreneurs feel comfortable in that. Not many people are willing to, give up to get, so you have to be in that space where you're willing to give up some aspect of control. Some entrepreneurs just aren't willing to do that. And like when you see Shark Tank, they may say yes to the investor, but at the end of the day, they don't do the deal because the terms are too high for them. So what banks, investors, and folks, what they're looking for are what we call the 5 C's of credit: capacity, capital, collateral, conditions, and character. You have to be able to understand these things as you're going in to ask for any type of funding. You have to have the capacity to be able to repay the loan. So if you're going after $50,000, you need to have some cash, you need to have some collateral in order to be able to receive the funding. You've got to be able to repay. And it's the most critical. Capacity is the most critical. Capital is the money that you personally invest in the business. So typically what you'll find is a bank wants you to invest at least 20% of your own amount in whatever it is that you're asking for. They won't want to be the only ones putting up the risk. So as you're going in to ask for a certain amount, make sure that you have some cash, some liquidity that's in there. Collateral or guarantees. These are saying the security that you're providing the lender that in case the business fails, you're able to liquidate an asset and use that against the loan to repay. There are many financial institutions that want to know what's the intended purpose of the loan. Not everybody's willing because restaurants are high risk. Not a lot of banks will do restaurants, but you want to go with the ones that do, and that's where you do a little bit of homework. Character is the overall impression that you give the lender. They want to make sure that you're on the up and up, that you understand what it is that you're doing, that it's feasible. You can't go in there and say, hey, I really need 25, but if you give me 100, I'd be really happy. You want to really make sure that when you go in there, the way you talk is, I'm Tara, I have this business, I've done this research, my potential opportunity of growth is X and Y, I need 100,000 to use for X and Y proceeds, and I'm ready to get started today. You really, bam, 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 you're going after them, and you have a good impression, a lasting impression that you leave with them. Because at the end of the day, no matter what you do in business, it's all about the relationships that you build and the people. It's not necessarily this is my business and I'm not part of that business. They're looking at you, the individual, and the impressions and the attitude that you have. Which leads us now into regulations. One of the most important, you see that note down there, but one of the important things that you want to consider as you're doing all of this is your business structure. Are you a sole proprietor? Are you a general partnership? Are you an LLC? Are you incorporated? You want to kind of figure out early on how you want to grow the business, set it up that way. Sole proprietorship is exactly what it says. There's a one owner, 100% ownership. They take 100% risk. They may have employees and people that work for them, but there's no one else as part of the business but this individual. You can use your own Social Security number. You would be able to apply for an employer identification number through the IRS, but it's probably one of the easiest formations of business in the United States. General partnership, that's usually when you're bringing on more people. And you go through sec.virginia.gov down there. That's the State Corporation Commission in the Commonwealth of Virginia. There are like entities in other states, but you would actually fill out a form that says, you know, Tara and Lourdes Morales are starting this business. We're partners. This is what it looks like, and this is the business that we're doing. So it starts to bring together people who are starting a particular type business, and it's separating and looking at the lines of business. Limited liability company is a fairly new formation. It begins to separate the business from the individuals. You always see LLP, that's a limited liability partnership. LLC is a limited liability company. LLP is usually if there's more than one partner. You'll see that with law firms. LLC, you can be an individual that applies for an LLC. You do that through the State Corporation Commission. You can apply online. It's very simple. It starts to separate Tara and Lourdes from the business they're doing business as, and it provides some protection as well. Incorporation, whether you're an S Corp, C Corp, or a hybrid between a nonprofit and a for-profit, I really recommend that you speak with a CPA, an accountant, or banker to figure out which one makes the most sense depending on how much money you're actually going to bring into the business. This is very important because you want to make sure that how you're set up well for the long term of the business. Now, when you apply for general partnership on down, you'll need to get what we call an employer identification number. That's done through the IRS. And on the different slides, you'll see that we have hyperlinks. So when you receive a copy of the presentation, it'll take you right to these websites. It'll let you know if you need a new EIN, if you need to apply for one, depending on you know, if you've been existing before or if you're a new organization. Your EIN, I always tell folks, it's like your Social Security number for the business, and it's your unique identifier for the business, and that is issued through the Internal Revenue Service. There's also considerations on the federal side. If you have a commercial or retail location, you want to make sure that you're compliant with the American with Disabilities Act. So that means that if you're having your customers or your clients or people come in, the doors are wide enough, they are accessible with folks that have physical challenges, they'll be able to get to you, and this is all federally regulated, and I have the link there. Insofar as state requirements, the State Corporation Commission is the organization or the body that will allow you to be an LLC, LLP, Benefits Corporation, S Corp, or C Corp for incorporation. You can go online there under the Clerk of Court and actually search to see if anybody else has your name. Make sure that you have a unique name. You fill that out right online, and then they issue you your articles of incorporation. Also, depending on the industry sector that you're in, the Virginia Department of Professional Occupational Regulation, or what we call DPOR, if you're an architect or if you're in the construction industry, if you're in the nursing or healthcare field, you would go there and it would let you know exactly what types of certifications that you need to have for your industry sector. The Virginia Employment Commission is another state agency. If you need to hire people, we call it VEC, and you want to make sure that you have your unemployment insurance, that you have everything that you need to know as an employee or employer what you need to do for your employees. So I highly recommend Also making sure that you have everything in place for the Virginia Employment Commission as well as the Virginia Workers' Compensation. Make sure you have enough unemployment insurance in case you need to lay folks off, and what type of OSHA everything that you need to know about employees is handled by the state. Local requirements, which are pretty important, and I'm gonna go, because sometimes people forget. Okay, I did my federal, I did my state. What do I need to do for local? For local, one of the main things you have to do for zoning is receive a home occupancy or a certificate of occupancy, depending if you're working out of the home or if you have a commercial space, and I'll go into some of that. Also, you need to have a business license. You have to, in Arlington, there's what we call a business tangible, and you're doing business as name or your trade name. And if you're involved in the food industry or if you want to start a food truck, you have to work with the health department. So I have all of those links in the following slides. Whether you're in Arlington, Montgomery County, DC, you have to be zoned accurately, and that's one of the first things that you do on the local level. And basically what that is if you're doing a home occupancy permit, it says it's free, I'm running my business out of my home, and one-page application, my home is my home, that's my major use, but I am, sorry about that, I don't know why she came in. But you make sure that you're zoned appropriately for that area. You would get what we call a certificate of occupancy if you're in a commercial space. That's based on the amount of square footage as to cost, but the zoning department would issue you that even when you're going through, if you need to build out space, they'll get you your certificate of occupancy, which says, this use, I am a caterer, I have a catering business, I can cater from this space. And so once you have your home occupancy permit, you then apply for your business license. This really is how you pay your local taxes. And typically, if the business is grossing under $100,000, and this is pretty much across the region, there's a flat tax of no more, say, than $50. Once you start grossing over $100,000, it's taxed by your industry sector per $100 that's grossed over the $100,000. Now the cool thing is we have a wonderful relationship with our Commissioner of Revenue's office. And if you see right there, their main number is listed. You can call them at any time. I have some really great connections over there. If you want to know what an estimated tax would be, you can contact them directly and they can help you do estimations based on your industry sector and based on how much you'll be grossing per year. Another thing to consider in Arlington is we do have business tangibles, which is a personal property tax on items that you use for the business, whether it's furniture, if you're a photographer, camera equipment, your computer. It's a depreciated asset where there's a tangible tax. You can also speak directly with our folks at the Commissioner of Revenue and they can let you know what that is. But that's also, all of these applications you can do online at the links that I provided for you there. The Commissioner of Revenue also handles your doing business as name or your trade name. You can do that right online. It's free. One of the things that you see right there that I would do before I'd apply is just make sure that no one has a like name in Arlington. You could do it on the state level through the SCCC, and then you can also do it here under trade name. It's $10. It gives you your unique name for this area. Now that is very different than a trademark. If you trademark, it means that no one else can use your name within a particular geographic, whether it's nationally in the United States, on the East Coast, on the West Coast, no one else. You've trademarked that name for a particular use. That is done usually through a patent or a trademark attorney that you can hire. This is just making sure that nobody in the jurisdiction has the name and you're reserving the name that way. Health department, if you're doing anything with food, this is where I would first start off. If you want to work in a farmer's market, if you want to start your food cart, they have wonderful, wonderful information here about the process, the forms, the regulations. Now, one good thing that I can say as part of this whole process, as you apply for your CO, your certificate of occupancy, if you're looking to build out space, definitely contact us, because we can meet with you and meet with the folks that will be reviewing your permits so that you know before you submit if you've got everything on the up and up. I recommend doing that just because it really makes it simplistic for you versus submitting it and then finding out your ADA requirements aren't there. We've had this happen, and I hate when this happens, or your plans aren't legible, or the architect has never done business in Arlington before. So we really can help you streamline that process, and we work very, very closely with the health department, so you can actually meet with them prior to buying the truck. They will review your truck for you to make sure that it meets the correct dimensions. Same thing for space, because we really want to make sure when you get started that you have everything that you need in order to start successfully and with as minimum amount of pain as possible. Which leads me to, we had talked about as part of the checklist, certifications. There are federal certifications as well as state certifications. I've provided a link here which will take you to all the federal small business certifications that you can receive as an entrepreneur. Typically, on the federal side, they'll have wanted you to be in business for 2 years. However, if you don't have the 2 years, but you have 10 years industry sector, you can get around that. So even though there are rules, there are always ways around some rules depending on your background and your personal experience that you have. There is the a.k.a. Small Business Development Program. That is a certification for particular minority groups to receive special certifications as they're doing business with the government, and there's contracts that are set aside for 8A businesses. There's a small business certification program. There's a hub zone empowerment contracting program. What not a lot of people know is that Arlington is considered a historically underutilized business zone off of Route 50 on Glebe. And if you locate your business in our hub zone in Arlington, you have the ability to minimize your taxes. You have opportunity sole sourcing for particular federal grants, federal programs. So it's something to consider. No matter, Baltimore has a lot, DC has a lot, Arlington just received its hub zone status after the 2010 census. And it's usually good for 10 years. And then when the census comes out, it may or may not change, but it's a great opportunity. There's also a women-owned small business certification that you can do, WOSB. On the state side, the state of Virginia, the Commonwealth of Virginia, through the Department of Minority Business Enterprise, DMB, you can certify to be a small business. You can certify to be small and minority owned. You can do a dual certification, or you can certify to be small and woman-owned business. And that's if you're interested in doing business with the state. And I've got to say, the state seeks billions of dollars of goods and services. So I would take a look on the eva.virginia.gov website and see what types of goods and services that the state buys. That includes local governments. Arlington County sells and buys goods on EVA. And you can go on and register on there. If you have your certification, there are opportunities that you can apply for to be able to market your goods and services to us. Which, selling your goods and services to the government, you can do local, whether it's Arlington, whether it's DC, whether it's Maryland, you know, the different municipalities, whether it's San Francisco, you know, whether doing business in California. Find out what those goods and services are. And we always call it show me the money or follow the money with the budgets, and then being very strategic if your good or services would apply to that. Arlington, of course, is part of that EVA You can go to eva.state.va.us, but they also do eva.virginia.gov, and you can see where all those opportunities are. On the federal level, sam.gov is the clearinghouse of all sole source opportunities, so you can actually, for free, register your business on SAM. And say I'm in DC, I work for the federal government, I work for the General Services Administration, and I need to purchase, you know, pencils. And I go and search, and I need a million gazillion pencils, and your company provides it. I can go directly and sole source that opportunity up to $2 million on this website. So the most descriptive you are, the most information that you provide, definitely I would recommend to, advertise your business on SAM. FedBizOps or FBO.gov is where you can search all of the federal agencies' opportunities. So you can register on there, and if there's something that looks good. Now, some of the tricks of the trade here in starting Upright is sometimes by the time some of these opportunities hit the streets, so to speak, it's already allocated as to who's going to get it. So this is where your business intelligence and research and meeting with agencies before they put information out can be really, really important. Okay. So hiring an excellent lawyer or CPA, please do this. Don't let it be a friend of a friend who knows a friend that sometimes does legal work. Make sure you get an attorney that understands your sector, a CPA that understands your sector, because they will save you money in the long run. Usually if you can, have an attorney on retainer, that's always good. So when you need them, you can use them. Always good to have a CPA that understands your industry sector, and knowing that legal advice from attorney is very different from legal advice that you would receive from a certified public accountant. So really making sure that the people, now I consider these folks as people on your team, people that will help you start Upright, understand your sector. Now, the other thing is, just a little tip of the trade from me, is if you can find a template of a term agreement or a letter of intent, and you mock it up and then have your attorney review it, that can save you some money, okay? Also, the bar associations for new businesses are excellent. They're excellently priced, and the value that you get from a bar association is amazing. So I've got some links to some resources to help you on your path, making sure that you get the right people that are working for you and that are on your team. Now we're ready to execute. We got all the certifications, you've done your business plan, you're ready to launch, you're ready to go, and you can do it like this, or you can do it like this. You are the space shuttle and you are blasting off to lands unknown, and you're doing it right, right? So some of the things to keep in mind as kind of a recap, and take a note, there's a note this, planning is fundamental, please do it. The only folks that I've seen that have failed are the people that haven't planned, and they just launch and they become the space shuttle that's a dud that doesn't go off because the weather's not right, Create a business from a successfully existing market, bring on the competition, because that means bring on the opportunity. Money, 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 money. Get the money. Get it now. Get it when you don't need it. Make sure that the location is spot on. Have good credit practices for yourself and for your business, because remember, those first 5 years, they're looking at you and they're looking at the business. Have that stellar team. Have those great people on your team. Your lawyer, your CPA, bring on that banker. Keep great records. IRS, usually people say, oh, the IRS audits every 7 years, every so often. But really, the IRS can, if there's any sign of any kind of misappropriation, the IRS can go back as long as they want. So, and you really have to understand what it is that your attorney, your CPA, and your banker are doing. Because at the end of the day, your business is responsible. So this is really, really important. Ask for help. Do not become an island unto yourself. Sometimes we get entrenched and we're doing things and we're having problems. Reach out. Don't isolate yourself. Network strategically. Ask some of the top people in your industry sector to serve as your advisor, to be your mentor. The most they can say is no, and if they say no, move on. You know, don't stick with these, just keep moving on. Make sure that you're strategically placed with the influencers and not the time wasters. There's a lot of time wasters in entrepreneurship. You don't have time for them. You just go with the people that can help you, which, you know, we talked about the advisor group. Please brag. You're the only one that can brag about yourself. So if you're not bragging about the great work that you do, the passion that you have, nobody else will. And we won't know. So when you're writing your business plan and you're talking about your management team, i.e. yourself, talk about your history, talk about your successes, talk about the things that you've done. It doesn't have to be a selfie, you know, but it has to be some really, this is why I'm going to be successful in doing what I'm doing. Make sure you use social media if that's where your clients are. Visit us in BizLaunch. Look at us as being part of your team, and then repeat continually. Keep this going, because the businesses that stay around for 1 or 2 years do not repeat continually. They may do it in the beginning, and then all of a sudden they stop doing it. You've got to be on your toes for the length of term. Now, if it's your plan is to sell yourself in 10 years for a gazillion dollars, now that's different. That's short term, that's serial entrepreneurship. But if your plan is to retire from the business, to sell the business in 25 years with assets, continually look, repeat, make sure you're on top of your game at all times. Now, we are here for you. Lourdes has been in the room, quiet, but my compatriot in arms, and myself, Tara Palacios, and we have a new addition. Hoseina McKenzie is also in the room. We're part of your team, and we, of course, I would be remiss to not add Mo Rouse, who is an amazing part of the BizLaunch team and gets you right from the beginning and helps you. But this is our contact information. If you need to get in touch with us, please do. We are here for the long term of your business, and make sure that we're helping you right. With that, we're going to launch into our Q&A session, and I'm really looking forward to hearing from you all. I've talked almost the entire lunch hour, so curious to hear from Masa if we have any questions.
We do. Thank you very much for a wonderful presentation. We have a few questions. I'm going to ask you, and feel free to answer and let me know when I need to stop, because I have a few. So the first question I have is, how long does it usually take a business to get started or off the ground?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. It really does depend on your industry sector and how detailed you need to be. Sometimes on average, I hear from people that I've seen, it can take 6 months to a year. Because you're really doing a lot of planning in the beginning, and you're getting a lot of information, and you're bringing together this group. So I would definitely say a year. Now, as you grow, let me back up. If you're adding space to the mix, it could be upwards of 2 years, because one of those bullets was location, location, location. So you want to make sure that the location is right, and you just don't want to accept a location because the landlord has offered you, a deal. You want to make sure that it's accessible to you. So you may turn down some. Price might not be right. Negotiations might not work. So sometimes and if you're in childcare, oh my gosh, that can take 2 to 3 years, because you need outdoor space, the regulations, there are a lot of regulators that participate, so that could even be longer. So you want to be able to plan accordingly. One of the tips that I give a lot of people is put everything down in the calendar with deadlines. That will keep you focused. So if you give yourself 30 days to get a business plan complete, and you're looking at the various chapters of your business plan, break that up. By week 1, I'm finished my marketing plan. Week 2, I know and understand my target market. So you're going through and you're putting deadlines, and they're hard deadlines for you. They can be soft, and you can plan around holidays. You know, we just had Labor Day, and you lose a lot of people. But this way, it keeps you focused. So if in a year's time you want to quit your job and launch and be ready and out there and ready to go, you plan for it.
Excellent. I have another question about if we don't have any experience in a business plan, where should they start from? How should they think about it?
Oh, that's a good question. With your business plan, really it should come from you. What I would recommend is reaching out to us to SCORE. We will review your plan at various stages. I've had a number of people that have come into BizLaunch that have never written a plan. I had one gentleman that actually paid a person $5,000 to do the plan. And when I reviewed what they had done, there were about 20 typos in the plan. It wasn't written really well. And what you end up doing is providing all the information to somebody, and they're basically typing it up for you. So really, and then if you go in and you meet with investors or you meet with your banker, they're going to want to understand, well, where did you come up with this number? Or where did you get that information? Do you understand this or that? And so, and at the end of the day, the individual that paid the $5,000 ended up doing their own business plan. They are highly successful, have been in business for 12 years, and have referred several people to us. And they did it independently. They did it on their own. It took some time, but they got through it. And in that instance, what we do is we have people make meetings or plan meetings around different topics that they want to go through, that they understand as they're writing it up. The other good thing is on October, in the first portion of October, we'll be offering how to write a business plan webinar. Oh, no, I'm sorry, how to start a business plan in person, because I think that topic is really important. Now, it's also there's a business plan, strategic plan, webinars that you'll see listed under resources on our economic development website, but you can also feel free to join us so that you can sit and hear exactly how to put that plan in place. You are not alone. There are resources, and we are here to help.
And I do believe we may have time for one more question. What do you recommend to entrepreneurs without any marketing background?
Oh, another great question. Marketing is very important. One of the recommendations, if you're not a marketer, say you create technology and you're all about market research and R&D and you have no idea how to do a marketing plan, I would take a marketing course. I would go, Northern Virginia Community College offers some really good marketing courses, marketing research. We offer, we'll be doing a marketing research webinar. This area is rich in different type of resources, especially when it comes to that area. I would become a subject matter expert in it. If you don't have time to become the subject matter expert in it, you can go to a lot of local universities and get an intern, especially a university that has marketing interns and are looking for capstone projects that can help you. Now, mind you, sometimes interns may not have the professional expertise, and you might have to do a lot of hand-holding, but this is a great way to help somebody gain experience as well as to help you develop a plan that you don't have the expertise in. The other piece, usually on the graduate level, if you can find a graduate student that's in marketing or a PhD student, that's like sugar on top, you know, that's really excellent. The other thing you can do is hire somebody that's in that field as a consultant. With that, with your business planning, you would need to have that in your budget and really market that time wisely, because these folks, you know, today's marketers are very savvy, but they can also be extremely expensive. And you also want to find out what those terms are that they have in order to be able to help you. Any other questions for us?
Those are the ones I have.
Okay, cool, cool. Well, I would like to thank everybody. Thank you, Masa. And thanks everybody out there in the webinar world. We really appreciate you joining us. Hope to see you very soon at another BizLaunch webinar, networking, or conference event. Thanks and have a wonderful day.